What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie. It's cold again in Texas. And today this is part two of my reviewing and ranking Prince's his studio albums. Part two is the 1980s. 9 albums. I was considering doing this one last because on the list of artists who did not absolutely suck in the 80s or make a left turn that makes no sense, Prince is on the top of that list. He managed to make the 80s look like the best time of music ever. So good on you, Prince. But yeah, I'm just going to talk about these, rank them. I'll put the list up at the end. I'm not going to, I've already done part one, which is the 70s albums. I'm not going to incorporate those into the list until the final list. I'll do his last albums and then have a final list at the very end just to keep intrigue going. And yeah. And I'm hoping, I have a list already, but I'm hoping that I'm hoping I like some of the more recent stuff more when I revisit it. I've already listened to one of them I've always liked, but I think I like it even more than I did before, one of his very, very last albums. Yeah, some good stuff on that. But anyways, I detract. Why Prince? What's the connection to Zappa? Well, the one I'm going with is I've seen rumors floating about that they might release a 1984 show from Indianapolis. That show is a very good show. It's got a fantastic truck driver divorce, among some other things in it. I really want there to be an 84 release that kind of puts that tour in a better light. And in that show, Prince was one of the secret words. So, it was also a secret word at least once or twice in 88. But yeah, there's a connection. But that's it. That's what I'm going with. Yeah, 9 albums. Let's get on to them, with them, for them, by them. Let's do it. Number 9 is Love Sexy. It is his 10th album, came out in 1988. I'm pretty sure I bought this the weekend I graduated from high school. And I'm still mad at it X number of years later, 30 some years later. So back in the day, and I think for quite a while, if you bought this on CD, the 9 songs on here were all indexed as a single track. And I don't know, today that might not bother me so much because I'm really into experiencing albums as they're, as complete entities. But back then I didn't really appreciate that. I like to find favorite songs. I like to jump around and hear favorite songs. I usually, came to discover an album by having 4 or 5 favorites and then spilling over into the others. And, before long, the whole thing has fleshed itself out. I wasn't able to do that with Love Sexy. So my opinion of this album is it's got everything you want out of a Prince album, right? You got some funk, you got some slow jams, though not the slowest of slow jams. You got some guitar workouts, you got some good pop energy. I know the opening track. I think that's the first time we drop an MPG, New Power Generation reference. So, there's a lot to like in this. We got some guest rappers. Cat, we want you to rap. To this day, my wife hates it whenever I see the cat in the house because I'll demand that the cat raps. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it. But I don't think there's really anything that's a must-hear song. I think the second half of the album doesn't quite have the same punch and draw as the first half. That might be me as an 18, 19, 20-year-old just not liking it enough to pay attention in the second half and being frustrated that I couldn't skip songs. Possibly, I don't know. But I do think it's the weakest of the stuff out of the 80s. And even if it wasn't sequenced as one, it would still be there. There's some good stuff like the opening number, kind of a nice straight up funk party jam, great horns, MPG reference, goes into Alphabet Street, which is the single off here. I think that was kind of the hit. Just some nice funk pop, kind of fun. Cat, we want you to rap. Glam Slam, we got some guitar flavored funk. I kind of like that. The closing song, kind of the longest song on here, is kind of your extended sort of long guitar track with guitar throughout it and just steady beats. It's probably the most his least sort of effective album closer to date. It just kind of treads water for 7.5 minutes and just seems a little bit too long. Anastasia's kind of cool, some kind of nice piano driven, kind of slow groove pop number. But then you just get, some dance pop funk type stylings and Love Sexy, Dance On. I Wish You Heaven is kind of mid-tempo funk pop. I just don't think any of it really stands out. Some nice guitar throughout it, some nice energy, some nice percussion, all that stuff. But I just think the songwriting just it's not as good as everything else that's on here. And the overall vibe is not as strong as the other one's vibe. So yeah, I would put that at number 9. His 10th, Love Sexy. Number 8 is Batman, the soundtrack to the movie of, I don't think that's the official title. What's the official title? Batman soundtrack or just Batman? Yeah, this was the soundtrack to Tim Burton's Batman. This is Prince's 11th album, came out in 1989. It's for the most part, like sort of, I guess, gothic funk. I think it is a great soundtrack to like the sort of Tim Burton dark dystopian vision of Gotham and Batman. And I think the first song, The Future, like sets up the album perfectly. It's moody. It's got like this techno pop vibe. It fits perfectly with that whole Batman theme. The problem is, and this is not the first album in which I have a problem, this exact problem, the second song sweeps the legs out from under that vibe and brings us this like almost like purposely irritating gated drums, in your face, industrial harsh, just it's an attack song. It's called Electric Chair. The song fits the title. They go well together. But after The Future, after the vibe that is set up, that I'm like, yeah, if this is what this album is going to be like, this is fantastic. He's leaning into the Batman thing. It still sounds like Prince, but it almost sounds like if Prince was born and raised in Gotham. And then we get Electric Chair, which to me just ruins the vibe, and it kind of takes me out of the album for a couple songs. I eventually get back into it for the second half, but I'm a little thrown. Midway through the album, we get a song called Vicky Waiting, which I think is fantastic. Best thing on this album. Absolutely fantastic. It's kind of this really low-key, groovy type funk. Almost got a, like if Alan Parsons was super, super funky, got that kind of keyboard sound in late 70s Alan Parsons funk vibe a little bit. Just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Has a futuristic vibe. Like it also feels like otherworldly as far as like Gotham and Batman. It's a fantastic song. After that is Trust, which is just like this really upbeat, drive-in kind of new wave funk. And like that to me, like brings me back in the album. That combination of those two songs. We get Lemon Crush, was a really fun song, upbeat funk. We get the absolutely awesome slow jam Scandalous, in which Prince is just screaming his head off. He's doing that Prince scream sing thing that is fantastic. The album closes out with Bat Dance, which is fun. He takes quotes from the movie and uses them. It's sort of like a remix. If there was a song called Bat Dance, it sounds like the remix version of that, but it is the song, if that makes any sense. It's a fun song. It's got some great musical components. I'm glad it's the last thing on the album because I think it's a good way to end. I don't think it would have worked anywhere else in the album. But it shows off Prince's use of like being able to use movie quotes and like actually make the song better. But part of it feels novelty-esque, for obvious reasons, being you got Jack Nicholson saying stuff in the middle of it. And then those other two songs after Electric Chair, you got The Arms of Orion, which is like a really floaty, airy ballad duet type thing that I'm not really fond of. And then we get Party Man, which is, it's a party, man. It's an upbeat dance-a-thon. It's just one of those crazy things. But yeah, I think it's a pretty strong album that had Electric Chair been removed or been toned down, or I don't think it fits anywhere on the album, to be honest, so I don't know where you would have put it. Maybe put it after Bat Dance. I'm okay with it. But I like this album. I think it's much better than Love Sexy. But there's 7 others I like more. My number 8, Batman. My number 7 is Parade, his 8th. This came out in 1986. This is the soundtrack to a movie, right? Under the Cherry Moon, which I do not believe I've ever seen. Or I think I maybe saw it in college and I walked out, or something else distracted me and I didn't finish the whole thing. Like a dorm room party or something like that. I don't know. I think I've seen parts of it, but I don't remember. But you don't need to see the movie. While I do think the first half kind of makes sense, like side A makes sense as a soundtrack, it doesn't detract from my enjoyment of the album. I think this is a great album. One of the things I love about Prince right here is in the comment section for my 70s video, somebody already said that Parade might be one of their all-time favorite, if not their favorite Prince album, which I'm like, awesome. Like, I see why. It's just not mine because I'm looking for something different out of Prince. But it's a good album. The first side is a lot of shorter songs that segue right one into each other, which gives it somewhat of like a theatrical, almost concept album type feel, despite the fact that I don't think there's any, like, you don't necessarily need to know what's going on story-wise. I don't. I know they name drop Christopher Tracy. He's in the title. He's referenced again in the last song. He's apparently in the movie, or that's a character in the movie, probably Prince. I don't know. But anyways, you don't need to know the movie, but it's some good stuff. The opening song, Christopher Tracy's Parade, kind of has this like, like psych 80s XTC psych, heavy on the production psych vibe, but it really works because it's Prince's take on that. Like, there's a lot going on in the song, but Prince manages to make it work. Then we get a New Position, which is just some straight up awesome, like maybe steel drum or just some really metallic drum driven, like funk pop type energy. We get a really great segue into I Wonder You, which has this sort of cool, creepy, weird funk psych vibe. Way too short. It's like a minute and a half. We need way more in this. This needed to be like a 7-minute psych exploration jam. The energy on this is fantastic. Then we go into Under the Cherry Moon. So we're almost like we're going like upbeat party. Then we get a little weird. Then we're going into like the soft little ballady thing. It's a really nice slow ballad. Then we get Girls and Boys. Up another dance groove song. Life Can Be So Nice. Continues that good little pop energy. Drummer doing fantastic on this. Like, Prince is like, we need a song where we give the drummer some. Life Can Be So Nice. They're giving the drummer some. Venus de Milo. Nice instrumental. Closes out side A. And I think maybe because it's an instrumental, it gives side A that sense of being like a little mini movie of sorts. Though I honestly don't know if the lyrics are connected to it. And then side B feels more like a traditional album. It just feels like 5 traditional kind of pop rock songs from Prince. You get the sort of almost 80s radio upbeat kind of rock song in Mountains. Like, I could have seen this on MTV with a video, like right next to Big Country or something like that. Some great vocal energy in here. We get Do You Lie, which is like a jazzy cabaret ballad. Then we get Kiss. We get Kiss. I mean, boiled down to its core, funk pop perfection. Kiss. One of the greatest songs ever. I run a poetry slam, and we give each of the poets a theme song. So if you come back more than once, you get the same song every time. One of our best poets for about a decade. Very antagonistic poet who liked to piss people off. She was brilliant, genius. But her theme song was Kiss. And every time I got to introduce her every week, it's like, next up, Rhea. And just dropping that beat. Oh, it was a good time. Love that song. Then we get Another Lover, Hole in Your Head, which is some mid-tempo funk pop. And then the whole album closed out with the absolutely gorgeous Sometimes It Snows in Aprils. There are oohs and ahs all over this gentle little baby. It's an awesome, beautiful track. It's a good album. I think it feels like a complete album, even though the two sides kind of are aiming for different things. I think they still complement each other well. Yeah, I could understand why this is somebody's favorite album. It's not what I'm looking for. I want 10-minute dance jams, but I think this is a good album. Number 7, Parade. Number 6 is his third studio album, Dirty Mind. This came out in October of 1980. We're still pretty much in that basic formula that we have for the first 2 albums, but the drum machine factor is up quite a bit. It's a more pronounced electronic sound. And in the beginning of the opening track, which is Dirty Mind, it's almost a little like, okay, we've gone a different direction, but then sort of the sort of melody that's overriding it comes in, and then when Prince starts singing, it's like, okay, we're back in Prince territory, and then this is actually a really, really, really good song. Starts off awesome with Dirty Mind, but then we get one of Prince's best tracks ever as the second song, When You Were Mine. Just an absolutely kind of looking forward to so many of his other sort of relationship songs and gender bending songs, and just the idea of like, it's just the fluidity of sexuality and all of that in Prince. It is just it is living and breathing in his music. And When You Were Mine is just another perfect example of just what he would delve into further on later albums. You know, for example, Sign of the Times, which we're going to talk about on this video. Just an absolute classic of a song. Cyndi Lauper covered it on her She's So Unusual album. Do not sleep on that album. Like, if you like pop music, that is a fantastic album, and it definitely doesn't hurt that When You Were Mine is on it. The next two songs are kind of just Prince kind of treading water, but he's doing the Prince thing. Do It All Night and Got a Broken Heart Again. Upbeat pop funk and a slow jam. Do It All Night, upbeat pop funk, Got a Broken Heart Again, kind of a slow jam. They're just kind of average as far as other Prince stuff has gone, even so far, I would say. And then side two is just kind of a party. It's just kind of a straight up party. We get Uptown, we get Head, we get Sister, which is about the I word. I'm not going to say it. Not because just because I don't want things to happen. I don't know what the censors say if you say things about your sister. I don't know what music works for a song about that. I'm not sure there is music that works for a song about that. The only song I really know the best song I know about a sister-brother relationship, I think, is Drive By Truckers, The Deeper In. I think that works. That sort of somber piano energy works. Whatever. And then we get Party Up, which is the best slice of funk on this entire album. It closes really, really, really strong. So that's a good thing. It's a good album. It's really solid early Prince. Two opening songs, or maybe the two opening songs and the last song, I think are probably the best. But other than maybe the just kind of average stuff on the end of side A, it's got good energy. It's a fun listen. Prince is still doing his stuff. But yeah, that's my number 6, if I'm not mistaken. 6, Dirty Mind. Number 5 is his fourth, 1981's Controversy. This was number 4 for a while. Like, I knew what my top 4 were. They were pretty solid. But over the years, this one is not dropped. But what was it, number 5, which is now at number 4, I've come to love a lot more. Hence the slip into number 5. But it's still a fantastic album. This is the album that I think you can hear so many of the things that Prince is going to do better, if not perfect, on his following album, which is 1999. Kind of dance grooves or drum patterns, drum machine beats that would go for just longer periods of time, that he would just let kind of breathe for longer periods of time. We get our very first Prince sort of rap dropped on the title track. We get sort of a kind of a funkier kind of bass drums drive that we would hear on like Lady Cab Driver. There's a song called Let's Work that has sort of a very just dun 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 kind of that kind of driving funk pop that kind of reminds me of no, Let's Work is the Lady Cab Driver with the and then Sexuality has that sort of Let's Pretend We're Married kind of like sort of just driving dance beat for like prolonged periods of time. We get an absolute fantastic, absolutely stupid slow jam in Do Me Baby. Some great funky bass in there. Just a really nice, long, lengthy, like 7.5 minute slow jam that is just Prince at his best. But yeah, side 1, 3 songs. You get the 7-minute Controversy. You get Sexuality, which is the one that kind of sounds to me like a sped up Let's Pretend We're Married. Just a nice beat, upbeat funk. And then we get the awesome, one of his best slow jams ever in Do Me Baby. Side 2 opens up with Private Joy, which is kind of some upbeat pop. Then we just get some kind of weird songs. Ronnie Talk to Russia has this really almost hectic, like crazy, frantic, like guitar energy, like it's his like Johnny Be Good or something like that. Just some weird, like high energy, kind of frantic type thing. Then we get Let's Work, which is that sort of funky, like Lady Cab Driver, just like laying down that funk beat with the drummer and the bass. And then we get one of the weirdest things he's ever done, Annie Christian, which is just this, almost sounds like a circa 2010, give or take a couple years, like those lo-fi artists that were kind of like, you know, the Ariel Pink or other sort of lo-fi artists that were kind of revisiting punk or revisiting the 70s. This almost, it doesn't have the sound quality of that, but it has that kind of lo-fi, kind of mysterious funk vibe. Really cool, really strange, kind of compelling, but it's got some lyrics which also I think tie into 1999. One of the repeated lyrics, I think it might be the chorus, is I don't live my life in taxi cabs, right? And then on the next album, we get that lady cab driver. We get a God reference in here. Lady cab driver. We're going to dedicate something to the Lord and his son in that song. It's a really neat, strange, effect heavy, just kind of low key funk number that it's pretty awesome. Then we get Jack You Off, which kind of too cheesy. I don't like it. It closes the album on a bad note. Album might have been saved and they even just switched those songs. Let's go off on weirdness. But yeah, a really, really good album. I just don't like the last song, but everything else on here is so strong that I would say it's easily number 5. Controversy. Yeah. My number 4 is his 7th, Around the World in a Day. This came out in 1985. And yeah, this is the one that I think literally every time I listen to it, I fall in love with it just a little bit more. It's his weird, let's not simply try to follow up Purple Rain by making the same album. Let's do something completely different. Sort of, let's go into psychedelic pop, left turn territory. I think the cover says it all. Yeah, it's just a fantastic album of like kind of psych pop funk explorations. Raspberry Beret is on here. I mean, that is an absolute classic of a pop song. I mean, Raspberry Beret is a song like if someone told you it was like, maybe if the production was just a little weaker, but the writing and everything, someone said it was like one of the biggest hits of the 60s, you'd be like, yeah, why would it not be one of the biggest hits of the 60s? Like, it is classic psych pop. Pop Life is on here, another really good, absolutely awesome pop song. Pop, and the way that bass kind of pop, though it's not really popping, but it sounds like it's popping. Life. There's a scene in here, a little thing where you hear like an audience yelling and it sounds like they're yelling at Prince. And I know when this came out, rumor was, might have even been in Rolling Stone. I read it in Rolling Stone that was the sound of Prince being booed off the stage before a Rolling Stone concert, which really happened. And the fact that Prince would put that on a song just made sense. Like, that's the kind of swag he has. Turns out that's not what it is. But I like that idea. But yeah, it's just a really good song. Around the World in a Day, the opening track sort of has this sort of like, it's like his version of like the Oranges and Lemons type, psychedelic type, XTC, mid-80s. That's the psych vibe we're going in here. And there's a little bit of like tension between like, it's kind of, you can feel that sort of psych revival of the 2000s, like that maybe they listened to this and they were leaning to this when they did that. We got Paisley Park, which has this really strange contrast between sort of the modern electronic or dated 80s electronic drum sound and just the psych energy that the rest of the song brings to it, and the way those two kind of live in the same ear space. It's pretty fascinating, and just always some nice guitar throughout. Condition of the Heart, one of my favorite slow jams. I don't even know if you call it a slow jam. It's like you get like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes of just slowly building atmospheric psych weirdness, spacey, just kind of before the lyrics drop. It almost feels like it's going to be like an instrumental, because most Prince songs don't go 3 minutes before we get lyrics. Yeah, and it's just great. It's got this really just nice, slow burning, gentle vibe that's just has a little bit of eerie psychness in there at all points. So you're just a little bit like, there's a little bit of intrigue, but really, really good. Raspberry Beret drops after that, and then the awesome, fun, bass drum-driven funk pop of Tambourine closes out side A. Side B opens up with America, which is just like this upbeat. It's him. I think it's, what is it? America the Beautiful. He's America, God shed its, he's taken that America the Beautiful, God shed its grace on the sort of lyrical trope and subverting it and making this sort of really crazy upbeat dance pop funk song about America. Way too short of a song. It's like 3.5 minutes, but this is one of those that he probably could have stretched out a little more. I think it's by far the jammiest song on this album. We get the delicious pop of Pop Life. We get the Ladder, which I kind of feel like should have been the closer. It's kind of a slow burning ballad. I think Prince is doing some actual narration in this. It's one of those that builds and builds and builds until Prince can finally just let it all out at the end in a cathartic scream. And then the entire album's out with just this absolutely great, even though I think the Ladder should have been the closer, we just have 8 minutes of let's have a party. Temptation. We're just going to party. Guitar is going to scream. We got horns. We got guitar. We got weird rock funk. Like, it's all here. it's an 8-minute song for about 4 of those minutes. And then we drop the energy down because everybody's got to go home and want to like chill out the sign. We got a nice little kind of piano driven jam for like the second half of the song. You know, I think The Temptation was the first half of the song, and we obviously gave in to The Temptation, and now we're like relaxed after experiencing whatever the joy of The Temptation was, and then we can go home not as frantic and not as hectic. It's a really good album. It's my number 4, Around the World in a Day. Number 3 is Sign of the Times. His ninth came out in 1987. Yeah, man, we got 3 perfect albums left on the top of this list, pretty much. This is a double album. It's all over the map in the best way possible. You have like slow jams. You got an awesome slow jam to end the whole thing called Adore. You got a lot of just straight up funk dance party action going on. You got Play in the Sunshine. You got Housequake. You got the awesome It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night, like the penultimate track, which is like a 9-minute just straight up party. A lot of side 2 is just a straight up party. Like there's a lot of really good dance energy on here. But then you also have some of Prince's absolute best like pop songwriting. Just like interesting to see if another artist had written these or if he had given these to another artist, because they sound like Prince songs. And because so many of them sound like Prince songs, or Prince puts a little Prince in them so it's like can't be played on the radio, a lot of these songs just I think weren't as big as hits as they should have been, or weren't hits at all. But we got the opening Sign of the Times where he gets political. It's kind of like, it's like in a low key, starting things off on a low tempo before we drop into Play in the Sunshine. We got the Ballad of Dorothy Parker to close out side A, which is a nice little kind of psych pop ballad. We got the awesome Starfish and Coffee, nice little song about a girl that he knew in elementary school and wondered what was in her bag, I think her lunchbox, and it was like Starfish and Coffee, something, something and jam. I can't remember what, tea. Really bad with lyrics. And so I think the first 2 sides are really strong and playful. And I think the highlights of the first 2 sides are like, you have these awesome dance jams with this just perfect pop writing sprinkled between. But then side 3 is maybe, I mean, it is. I think side 3, maybe not, because I still got 2 albums to go. Side 3 is one of the best sides of music Prince ever made. Opens up with You Got the Look, Sheena Easton on here. That song is just still a jam. Then we get If I Was Your Girlfriend, which is kind of a really darker, more twisted, sort of When You Were Mine type, looking at gender roles and sexual fluid, just all the thing that Prince brings to relationships and sexuality. If I Was Your Girlfriend might be like the pinnacle of that. We get Strange Relationship, which is just the catchiest, most upbeat. What is this matter of this strange relationship? Chip, chip. Awesome little pop song. And then we get the rocker, the straight up rocker, I Can Never Take the Place of Your Man, with some like playful guitar energy at the end, some absolutely driving energy. Like it is a perfect 20 minutes of music, side 3 of this album. Side 4, we get The Cross. We get The Cross. We get the 9-minute jam of It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night, and it is a beautiful night. Let's all just party. And then we get Adore to close out, send us home on a slow jam, on a horse and a carriage, off into the park, to do whatever we're going to do for the rest of the night. It's a great album. It's a double album. It gets better as it goes along, and it peaks. I mean, it's a perfect thing. Introduction, party, peak, let you down a little bit, party some more, send you home. Nailed it, Prince. My number 3, his 9th, right? 9th, I said that earlier. Whatever I said earlier, it's his 9th. Sign O the Times. Number 2 is Purple Rain. His 6th came out in 1984. My mom bought this album when it came out, and I don't think it was ever in her car because either my sister or I, who was a year and a half younger than me, had this playing in our rooms at probably all points in time for the next year. This and the album that's number 1 on this list, my mom bought both of those because my mom happened to be a Prince fan, and we listened to them all the time, my sister and I, and it was the one artist I think we both loved equally. But yeah, I mean, Purple Rain. This is a perfect album. Like I listened to this again a couple days ago. I hadn't heard it in a while, and I was like, I mean, I know every song by heart. I know every segue, every beat, every weird little production twist, and it's still just a perfect listen. It is still so well. Everything about this album is perfect. Opens up with Let's Go Crazy. We all know that song. Then we drop into the sort of, I guess, psych pop of like Take Me With You. Then we get what are the classics of this album? The ones that's for some reason, I mean, I guess they couldn't have made hits, but really are like the heart and soul and guts and just like, it's like the center of this album in a weird way. The Beautiful Ones into Computer Blue. Just the screaming in the Beautiful Ones, all the crazy stuff that happens in Computer Blue, and then all that segues and builds up and drops us right into Darlin' Nikki, which of course caused waves when it came out because, wow, people were taking care of their own needs. How shocking. And it wasn't even a single. It was just on an album. Man, this country. But anyways, like a perfect run of 5 songs is side A. And you're like, can you beat that? Well, yeah, let's go to side B. When Doves Cry, no bass on that song. I still think that's an awesome fact. I Would Die For You. Baby, I Must... Awesome. And then we close out with Purple Rain, which when that came on, I was like, yeah, that's just it. That's the jam. That's a great song. Purple Rain. Yeah, I mean, what else to say about this album? I think everybody knows this album. It's a great album. I was surprised at how much I absolutely loved it because I thought I had reached the point where I was just like, I spent way too much of my life listening to this album, but man, it's still good. Funny thing is, this is only a single album, but I still don't think I've listened to it as much as the one that's number 1 on the list. But number 2, Purple Rain, which means number 1 for the 80s is... And my number 1 favorite 1980s Prince album is 1999. His 5th album came out in 1982. This is the one that pretty made him a huge star. A lot of it was due to MTV. Little Red Corvette was played on MTV all the time. To a lesser degree, 1999, but Little Red Corvette seemed to like pop up every hour for like years. It's just great. This is the album that like controversy was leading into. A lot of electronic dance songs, a lot of just drum rhythms, just a drum beat, just going, and layering ideas on it. And then Prince comes in with some vocals. We got some really tight, like drum and bass funk coming in there. Lady Cab Driver, just funk heaven. James Brown, funk heaven. Let's Pretend We're Married, electronic dance heaven. All the Critics Love You in New York. I'm almost positive James Murphy of LCD Sound System knows this song by heart and based half of his songs on All the Critics Love You in New York. This entire album is an LCD Sound System template for especially what he did on like his first 2 albums. Like this is that. Just I don't think he's using digital. I don't know what he's using on this. Analog, right? But just whatever it is. I don't know. I don't care. It's fantastic. The grooves are fantastic. The music is fantastic. And then among all the really, really long dance tracks, there's also some of the best pop music he ever wrote. Side A, 1999. And if you've not heard the full-length album version or only know the single version, you are missing out on a much better experience. And the question, Mommy, why does everybody have the bomb? It's a much darker song on the album than it is even the pop single. That goes into Little Red Corvette, just a perfect song. And then that drops into the dance party of Delirious, whenever you're near. Then side 2, we get Let's Pretend We're Married, which is just, that was my sister and I's favorite song from the time I was 12, she was 10, to the time I was like 14 or 15. We played that song all the time. We would put on the CD and we'd start with Let's Pretend We're Married. We'd go back and then listen to the other songs and hear it again. I don't know why. I think it's about the part about all the hippies sing together. But we loved this song. Our greatest bond in life. Then we get Dance, Music, Sex, and Romance, DMSR. This was not on the CD back in the day. Apparently, they actually could not fit 80 minutes of music, or maybe it was just over 80 minutes. So they dropped DMSR off it. So I didn't hear that song till I was in college, I don't think. I don't even think I knew it was missing. But it's a good song. Nice, just, dance, just an extended groove type song. We get Automatic, which just has this melody line that goes through the entire thing, that even though it's another one of those just kind of dance type songs with some really good guitar energy, that melody line that just goes through it just does something that just like continues to bring you back and like ground you to the song. It's great. Yeah. We get Something in the Water Does Not Compute, which always reminded me, I get Thomas Dolby vibes on this. It's kind of a late night slow number, not like a slow jam, sexy late night, but just like a late night, you're still up doing stuff. But some of the keyboard sounds and some of just the way they're used, for some reason, remind me of like Thomas Dolby, particularly that, what is it, the Europa and the Pirate Twins, I think is the name of the song, one of his first hits. It reminds me of that. And then we get Free, which is like a nice slow funk, poppy, building type ballad type thing where we get some screaming, we get some guitar soloing, we get all that stuff. Side 4 opens up with Lady Cab Driver, which is just funk, heaven, galore, fantastic. We get a Prince rant at the end where he's doing a bunch of things for a bunch of people, and the way it goes down, it's one of the greatest moments in all Prince history. We get has to be the template for LCD Sound System, All the Critics Love You in New York. Obvious one being New York, I Love You, that connection, but there is something about it. There's like an attitude in here too, where it's like, he's too cool to sing. The whole thing's like, oh yeah, all the critics love you. It's like, you're just too hip, you're too cool. There is like so much just, not necessarily drunk, but just indifferent, but also a little full of something, maybe full of yourself, kind of a laid back vibe, but it's still kind of dancey and kind of poppy, but it's just almost like, it's like too cool. Really nice guitar energy at the end. Yeah, just another really great song with a really good attitude. And then we close with International Lover. Prince is the pilot. Your destination is pleasure. He does some talking. He does some smoothness. This is the slow jam. Like, this is up there with all the epic Prince slow jams. Yeah, like this is like half the poet. I mean, again, going back to, I run a poetry slam. Half the sort of slow jam, I'm gonna love you poetry slam poems are straightly like rip-offs of International Lover. This is just Prince at his confident best. Beck's song Deborah, I met you at J.C. Penney. That seems to be like based on International Lover. Like Beck heard that, or International Lover was like, I got to do my version of that. And that's why we have Deborah. So you can thank Prince for that. I don't know if that's true, but I see the connection. I see the through line. All right, it's a perfect album. What am I going to say? Maybe there's a better album in the 90s, 2000s, or 2010s. We don't know. But for now, my number one for the 80s, Prince's 1999. That's all I got. That's my ranking right there on the screen. That's what they look like in typewritten form, in case you forgot. Don't know how short your memory is. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what your number one is. Let me know which one I should check out. Let me know why I should reconsider those ones at the bottom. Let me know what the key to understanding Love Sexy is. What track should I focus in that will give me the joy that I want to experience in the rest of that album? Those kind of things. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all that stuff. Subscribe, like, share, and go listen to Prince. Go listen to 1999, man. That is a perfect album. That is just, that. Yeah, that's the template for perfection. Dance, groove, funk, pop, slow jam, Minneapolis sound, perfection. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. Peace. Talk to you later.